Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Industrial Faith. Welcome to a new series, Factorio at 4x. What that means is I'm going to play Factorio at 4 times regular speed. This first episode is going to be 7.5 minutes long, mostly because I played for about a half hour, then realized something important. I was on an island, and you can't really get anywhere on an island because in order to finish the game you actually have to get, as far as I'm aware, you have to get pink science modules, which you get from killing aliens. And if you're on an island, the aliens can't get to your island, they can't attack you, and so forth. And it makes things a tad difficult, shall we say. So what happens is I end up downloading, after I close out this episode, I download the Landfill mod, and I rendered episode 2, and I didn't know how to use the Landfill mod, so I said something terrible and said, oh well, this isn't what we need, I'll have to get something else. And I went out and decided to actually look at what I was using the Landfill mod for, and I realized I was using it wrong. So if you're watching, when you watch episode 2, please understand that I didn't know what I was talking about when I was talking about the Landfill mod. And so I can't wait to actually try out the mod and see how it works. So this is, again, the beginning island. I was very lucky, and it's probably because it is an island, that I actually have stone, copper, and coal and iron all right next to each other. So all I'm doing is I'm just getting the resources necessary to start electricity. And as you can see, I'm kind of building the parts. I've built the pump and some pipes. If you're not familiar with Factorio, it is a very elaborate building game. It is not available on Steam. It will be available next month, as in February of 2016. Those are fish in the water, by the way. And I tell you what, it's a heck of a game. For an early access game, it's amazing. And this game's been out and in a playable manner for over, I think, easily over a year. There's some very long, well-known Let's Plays that have already been done. Now, I like to put a gap between my water pump and my boilers just so I can walk. And that's very important to me. A lot of people don't care. I do. Now, if you notice those coal plants, the burner inserters, I set them in that little spiral because that way they feed each other and I don't have to put anything in them. So it's just my basic thing. Again, I have now just my first power. The first power structure you're always going to build is always going to be a self-powered power station, meaning you're going to build a coal miner, and then you will build an inserter of some type of boiler and a steam engine, and that will keep the and that'll be your first energy, and that's all you need. And then from there, it's merely collecting the iron and the copper until you get enough to build more miners, and then you collect stone, and collecting the stone gets you the ability to build the furnaces, burners, essentially. So what I'm doing here is I'm building my science so I can start building assembly machines. The only thing I'm able to do right now is build an inserter and a science lab, and that's it. And that's how you always start. Your first 10 points should always be spent, in my opinion. There's two things you can spend it on. Either spend it on weapons to get gun turrets, although I think that might be the next tier. I'd have to look. But the first thing oh no, military. It's the very first one that gets you gun turrets. My apologies. So it's a balance. You either get the ability to build assemblers and thus automate your science early on, or you build military and you try to protect yourself. Now, I've actually played some games where I've had biters in my base inside of a half hour. And it's kind of brutal when that happens because they eat all your stuff, and as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, I have a handgun and 10 magazines. And that's pretty brutal. So my science is up and running. And there's really not much else going on here. Building more assemblers. Click-clack, click-clack. There's a quick way to do all that, but I haven't bothered to remember how to pick stuff up without using the shortcut keys and so forth. But there's the island, and I'm like, and the power. What happened is, if you notice that little arm of the box about midway up the conveyor belt, yeah, I told it to fill the chest. You can tell chests to only fill to a certain level. Usually, if it's one box or one square, that's a stack, and you said, hey, don't fill any more than this. So I'm just doing stuff, and at this point, I don't realize it's an island yet. I'm sort of running around. Now I'm exploring, and I just went, oh, for God's sakes. I almost quit right here, and I said, there's that mod I was looking at, and I'll have to do that. So I'm going to accept the challenge. And the thing is, this is a really, really easy start then. Because of the landfill mod, which I can create a land bridge. Once I can do that, then I can go ahead and... that's what I'm doing. Once I'm moving my science rig so I can put more steam engines in. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. It's going to, the whole gist of the entire build, and you'll probably hear me repeat it again in episode 2, is that I'm going to go science heavy. I'm not going to worry about building a big giant factory. I'm going to build a science factory. And all I'm doing is I'm going to get to the point where I can build science, blue science, green science, red science. Obviously, if I want to do purple science, I'm going to have to go to the mainland and, go to the mainland. And what's the thing I need to do? Right, explore. So I'll go to the mainland, and here's me laying out my the auto-filling of the boilers. And now we have power, and the coal is working, and everything's going to start running. And I'm going to lay down a radar here fairly soon, I believe. And I'm just moving stuff around to try and make things as neat as possible. I'm one of those weirdos. I like things looking neat. Admittedly, there's kind of a weird, crooked thing to it, but eh. Now, if I recall, what I'm trying to do here is... I'm just building science. I think I'm trying to build science so that one power pole will power all of it. And I think I do a pretty good job here. Let me see. One power pole science. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. A fully self-contained, teeny tiny little science thing. I know it's very dark at night, which is nice. And I'll have to brighten up the video here in post-production. Because nobody wants to look at it otherwise. But anyway, so that's the end of it. I look forward to seeing you in episode 2. Thanks for joining me. Have a good night, and bye-bye.